Truly Northern: the life and assimilation of an Italian family in the northeast. The Northern people are a proud group, with a strong sense of identity, one with respect for their heritage and the plight of their forefathers. A race of hard, working-class men and women, whose ancestors had dirt under their fingernails from a hard day's graft in the steelworks of Teesside and Sheffield, the pits and collieries of Durham and Yorkshire, or the cotton industry of Lancashire. While this northern identity unifies the white working classes, it serves to ignore and exclude those in the area who have a different background. The contribution of immigrants to the region has been undercut by their otherness and the absence of this unifying myth. Through this, the region has seen many white immigrants abandon their roots and assimilate, with generations of history and traditions somewhat forgotten and their children becoming part of this northern race. This is evident through the Italian Trillo Brothers and their descendants who still reside in the northeast. Although ethnic Italians have been present within Britain's society since the Roman invasion of these shores in 55 BC, true mass immigration only occurred between 1861 to 1961. Italian unification was largely responsible for the first half of this period, as it left many from the poorly educated contadini farming class from the centre and south of Italy struggling economically. Most of these Italians settled in large hubs such as London, Manchester and Glasgow, with many bolstering the labour force or grasping opportunities in food service, particularly ice cream manufacturing. The Trillo brothers, Giuseppe, Gregorio and Loretto's story is different. Hailing from a small village in the Lazio region, Arpino, Giuseppe and Gregorio emigrated in 1905. They did not move to one of these hubs, instead they lived with their uncle, an ice cream manufacturer named Antonio Galante in Gisborough, which had a small community of families from their hometown. When the Trillo brothers started their own business in Loftus in 1912, they were most likely the only Italian members of this small northern community. The third brother, Loretto, joined Giuseppe and Gregorio in 1919. Together they manufactured and served ice cream for the local labourers and their families, many of whom were employed in the steelworks at Skinning Grove. Although popular members of this northern community, due to the nature of their business, their identity was alien to the locals. Their names were a source of confusion, and unwilling to pronounce them properly, they were rechristened by the community. Giuseppe became Jos, Gregorio became Charlie, and Loretto became Lol. All of these names stuck until their deaths. Their Italian identity was beginning to be unpicked. To be fully accepted by their neighbours, they had to sound like them. This removal of their birth names was the first step in their assimilation. As the 1920s and 1930s rolled on, the brothers' business and family grew. They started an ice cream parlour on Loftus's High Street, upgraded from selling their product from horse and carts to a Chevrolet truck, and purchased a premises to produce ice cream in the nearby town of Whitby, to expand into the tourist industry. Between them, the brothers had 9 children, who were all given English names. The children were raised to be English and to conform to the society they were born into. The Italian language was not passed on, neither were Italian customs. By adulthood, the only discernible difference the children had over many of their English peers was their Catholic faith. The Second World War is when the Trillos' loyalties and identity was truly questioned. The 35,000 strong Italian community living in Britain in 1940 were labelled as enemy aliens, with many being interred in camps on the Isle of Man or sent abroad to Canada or Australia. Whether the Trillo brothers and their wives were interred is unlikely, as they were naturalised citizens at this point. However, their good friends and business associates living in Middlesbrough, the Grecos, were interred, with one member of the family drowning when a boat carrying internees to the Isle of Man unfortunately sank. Still, the Trillo brothers did their bit and went into war work for the duration of the war, with Lol being sent to Sheffield. Second generation immigrants were also viewed with great distrust at this period by Britain's security forces. This was especially the case for children of Italians, as they were automatically granted dual citizenship from the Italian government. This apparent duality of loyalties held by these people meant that many in the military high command felt they could not be trusted. However, to the second generation Trillos, They felt like they had the same responsibilities as any other member of their northern community. All that were of age either supported the war through joining industry or serving in Britain's military. All four of Lowell's children, Mary, Elsie, Les and Frank, donned the uniform, with Mary being extremely upset that Elsie had been accepted into the Women's Auxiliary Air Force before she had. Frank, who joined the Army Service Corps, was exempt and could have avoided service, but still signed up. These actions were not of a generation struggling with their identity. In their younger years, they were ostracised by some members of their community due to their foreign roots. Yet, by adulthood, they were all hard-working men and women doing their bit for their country and community. In the post-war years, normal life and work resumed for the Trillos, with the success of their business continuing to this day. Joss passed away in 1958, with Charlie following in 1959. Lol could still be seen with his pipe, flat cap and a pint, playing dominoes in his local pub, until his death in 1973. Lol looked like part of the furniture, the stereotypical northerner, relaxing after a hard day's work with his friends. You would only know he wasn't from the area by listening to his thick Italian accent that persisted until his death. In contrast to their parents, the second generation Trillos didn't have to assimilate in the same way. They were part of this northern race. It's all they knew. Bar Elsie's persistence of making spaghetti and red stuff, as her children called it, their traditions, pastimes, and hard-working nature was the product of the northern community of which they were born into. The reason for this assimilation could be down to the Trillo brothers and an urge for their children to conform to the dominant northern identity that surrounded them. However, the consequence of this was the loss of generations of Italian customs, traditions, and the prevention of the continuation of a foreign identity.